this is Chidero bringing you yet another tutorial. This one is for the triple bling ladder. It is not the ladder bracelet that Rainbowloom has out as their design. It's this one is tweaked to make sure that the beads stay on in the correct order. So I called it the triple bling ladder because was my original intention, was to just bling the ladder bracelet. But while I was doing it, I realized there was a different way to do it to make everything stay in place. So let's see, tutorials for looms. She actually got the original bracelet. She had requested it, and she is the huge sweetheart, so I gave that one to her. With that being said, I just made this little one here just to show you what bracelet we are going to be doing and a little bit on why it's loomed the way it is. So my biggest thing here was to make these beads stay in place. If I would have done just maybe a 2-bar pin loom, they could very well end up kind of like that. So what I've done was I did the 3-bar pins, but only one row in the middle is on the back. That kind of gives it a little bit of stability so they don't come through. And if I did a row on the front as well, you would be able to see those in between here, and I didn't want that. So again, this keeps it in place, and there's 2 rows on the sides. Another thing is I used bigger beads, pearl beads, in this one here. Let's see, this is the size that I'm going to be using today, and in the bracelet, I'll just show you the 2 packs. This is the pack that I'm using today, and this is the pack that I used for the bracelet. They are 2 different sizes. The ones I'm using today are larger, but I did use them already, and I know that they are going to work. These ones are a little bit smaller, and you can see the size of the hole is pretty much almost the same. I mean, these are a little bit bigger, but still you'd be able to get dental floss. You could use one of the bread ties, take the paper off of it and use that. You could use 28 gauge wire, jewelry wire. It comes on a spool. So that's what you can use as your threading tool. So let's go ahead and get started. As usual, I'm going to go ahead and thread 3. And you're going to go ahead after that and you can thread the rest of them. We're going to need 9 in total. So we're going to use our loom in the square position where the pegs are all lined up, and we are not going to put any beads on the first row and the last row. As you know, those 2 rows are pretty much like our capping, and they're going to be at the end. So we want to put them on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 bead bands that we need to put on the loom. So with that being said, I'm just going to do 3 with you. If you haven't checked out any of my tutorials yet, it might be a good idea if you check out the one tutorial I have is basically about threading and putting beads on the band. I go into a lot more detail. But what we do is we get a threading tool, we put our band down in the center, and in this case we're going to use 3 beads. So we're going to put the pearl on first. We're not going to slide it down, we're just going to keep it on the threading tool. And then we're going to put on this spacer. This is a spacer that came on an existing bracelet that I purchased at AC Moore, and I cut up for parts as I usually do. So I did not buy these in a pack. They just came on an existing bracelet. You can buy them on a pack, in any craft store. They should have a pack of them where jewelry designs and jewelry, that type of stuff is sold. So once we have our 3 beads on the bracelet, the easiest thing that I've seen so far is to put the other side of the band on the loom, kind of give it a little bit of a pull, making sure you're not going to let go of your threading tool, and then just slide your beads down on the band. Now, of course, this will show me problems on the video. The only reason that that is doing that is because this threading device right there, it is caught. I bought a different type of wire, which kind of stays into place a little bit better. And with that being said, it is susceptible to cutting the band. That one is okay, it's not going anywhere, but I will change that so that way we can do this, we can move on. So let me grab another threading device. Okay, let me clarify, my apologies. If you can see right there, it has a little bit of a niche in it, okay? That's why it was pulling on that band. So this one has been used before, and it is time to probably give it up. It's not worth it. I have a whole spool of it, so it's not worth trying to get that kink out of there. So that's why that happened. So I'm just going to go ahead and use an existing, gosh, I think this is 30 gauge maybe jewelry wire. So I'm going to put my band down the middle. And this is really thin wire. This is the only wire that I found that I can use to put the rhinestones on. Okay, so we're going to put both ends of that wire inside. And we're not going to put it on the band yet. We're going to wait and put in our spacer bead. And then our last bead. So 1 pearl, 1 spacer, 1 pearl. Okay, so let's put this on our loom and hold it tight. And look how easy. See, I told you it was that threading tool. It wasn't me. It slides on really easy. Okay, so let's take this off of our threading tool. And we've got one more that I'm going to do on video. And you can go ahead and thread 8. I had to think 8 more. Oop, there's a hair on it. Okay, so put your thread down and make sure that both pieces, because this is such a thin wire, okay, we're going to just keep that in place. Put this, excuse me, the spacer down. And then we put our pearl bead on next. Put the end of your rubber band on a peg, pull it just a little bit, and slide them down on. It looks so easy, huh? Well, these are awesome, awesome bands. I am actually using I'm not sure, actually, to be honest with you. I need to find out what brand they are. I'm not sure if they're do-it-yourself DIY bands or Crazy Loom bands. I'm not sure. They're metallic silver, and they are the stretchiest bands. They are really, really awesome bands. So, I have 11 of these already thread. Okay, so I am actually ready to put this on the loom. So what I'd ask for you is just to pause it and finish up your 8 more. And then you can join me whenever you're finished. Okay, so how we're going to loom this is not exactly like the ladder bracelet. It's a little bit different, but it's not challenging at all. It's very, very easy. And I need to grab a little bit more bands. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 rows up the sides. And I'm just going to go at my pace, and you can go at your pace. And always remember, you can always pause, rewind, and fast forward. And that way everybody is comfortable with the tutorial. So I'm just placing bands up the sides together to make the tutorial a little bit shorter, but we're still doing it together. Yes, you should not have your bands twisted. All right. So, I've got one more. We're going to go, I'm going to go ahead and down at the end of my loom, I'm going to put a band, one band going from the center peg out, another band going from the center peg out again. I'm going to put those down there before I go ahead and put my last 2 bands on. Just like that. Okay, so we do have, and make sure all of your bands are pressed down because we need to put more bands on top. So now our loom is filled as far as from the left pin or peg and the right peg are completely loomed. I'm sorry, the bands are placed. There is one thing I did forget to do, which I'd like to do, is I'd like to take this band off, do the same as I did on the other end. Put a band going from the center out to the left. Let's put that back on. Take this off, put a band going from the center to the right. And this is typical for a straight peg loom design. There we go. Okay, so the next step is the bling step. So we're going to take our band, give it a little bit of a pull. I'm going to go to the second peg and put the left side on the second bar pin. I'm sorry, the second pin. The right side of the band on the right bar pin. These are going to come across, they're going to be a little bit moving around in that. It's okay because once it's completed, it will straighten out. And you want to keep your beads on the back side of the pin. So we'll get our next one, and we're just going to go right up the loom, doing the exact same thing. Left side on the far left, right side on the far right, putting the beads in the center behind the center pin. Another thing I'd like to mention is if you have been watching my tutorials, I have mentioned that in them I purposely don't like to do the same bracelet that I'm actually, the reason of why I'm doing the tutorial is because I don't want to have 2 of the same. I like to have different. So it was really tough for me to do another pearl one, but because it's so pretty, I changed it up just a little bit. And actually this one right here will show you how I did my bands for you. Putting the beads on earlier, I put the wrong spacer bead in there, so I actually have to loom maybe 3 more of them. And different from what I did post the original bracelet, I did put in those regular spacers. In this design, I chose to put bigger pearls with a bigger rhinestone spacer. So at least it is changed up just a little bit, but it is definitely still along the same track as what you're doing right now. So we have a couple more. So I'm going to take this little sample bracelet that I did. Let me take this apart quickly. That way I won't have to thread any more bands. I can just grab these off of here and we can go ahead with the design. So it will be up to you on what you choose to put in the middle of your bracelet. When you go to the craft store, just take a look around and you can see what size beads there are. It doesn't have to be any certain size. You'll be able to judge just by looking at them. Oops. Take that one off. Put this one on. Okay, we have two more after this one. Everyone says my tutorials are so long. Not everyone, like my son. He thinks he's like my roadie, my manager. So I'm trying to make them a little shorter. So I apologize, I'm not trying to rush you. I just don't want them to be too long. Okay, so now we have all of our beads placed on our loom from the second peg, second row in, to the second to the last row. And we left the bottom and the top rows empty. So our next step, make sure that all of these are pressed down. Our next step is we're going to go ahead and throw 3 rows on this loom. And I'll tell you why. I like to put a row down the center. Anytime that I'm doing any type of bling jewelry in the middle, I'm putting bands down here. When you're putting jewelry on your bracelet, if you have one-sided jewelry, meaning if it's, you know, like this is a pearl, so you'll be able to see what it is from either this side or this side. Okay, if you're doing a piece of jewelry that is maybe flat on one side or not colored on the other side or whatnot, you want to put the good side, the side you want to look at, facing down. If it's facing down, then it's going to come off the loom, and this side of it will be the face that you're going to look at. So in this case, I wanted to put a row behind because you're not going to be able to see it. And this is what kind of, in my opinion, it kind of helps keep them in place in a little bit more backbone stability, because the only thing that's going to be holding these bands on the bracelet are going to be the side, these side bands. So that's what makes this different. Well, actually, there's a little bit more that's different than the ladder. Okay, so I just put bands on the entire middle row, and now I'm going to put bands on the sides. So I'm going to double up, put these bands going all the way up the loom, and as I mentioned before, please do not hesitate to pause and take your time and go at your speed. Okay, almost done, and once we get to the end, then we are complete with laying our bands, and the next step will be to cap band and start looming. So we're going to go all the way to the end like that. Alright, so we have our entire loom filled. Let's recap. We do have a row on the bottom. The next row Step 2 was to put our bands across with the beads, and then step 3 was to throw 3 rows of bands all the way down on top. So let's turn our looms around with the open end facing us, and we need to put cap bands on. So I'm just going to go ahead and put 3, and I'll tell you why whenever we're finished. And that's basically, it's going to depend on how you want this to be on your wrist. Everybody is different. A lot of people don't like to have extensions. I personally do because it wastes jewelry to me if I don't put an extension on and add more jewelry to the bracelet. And it's on the bottom, on the bottom of my wrist. Okay, so let's start out on the left side, and we're going to go inside the cap band, but we're going to loom the top row, the row that we just put down. So we're going to leave that bottom row there. In this second peg here, this is where our bling bands start. We're going to go underneath, push that bling band back. We're going to make sure that we are looming the band on top of the bling band this time. My apologies. So all of the top bands. I got a little ahead of myself there. And noticing I'm so trying to be quiet too because I talk too much in my tutorials. So, I think I did get that one. I sure did. Pay attention, Christy. I actually grabbed the bead band and not the band that's going forward. So be careful with that. Okay, so once you get to the end here, go ahead and press everything down, because we do have another layer that's going to go on top. So let's go to our second row and just loom the top layer. Gosh, these bands are I just have bells and whistles going off everywhere. So you don't have to be careful with bands on the middle row because there are no other bands to watch out for. And remember that this row is specifically the backbone of the bracelet. It's not to be seen. It's the part that's going to go on your wrist. So I'm still going to push that one down so that way I don't have any bands that are coming off the pegs. Okay, so let's go into our last row, our third row here. Just grab the top bands and loop them forward. Making sure that you are grabbing the top band and not accidentally grabbing the bling band that is right underneath it. Alright, so we now have our first 3 rows that are on the top. We have those all looped. So I'm going to push this row down because we're going to do the last step, which is looping the outer perimeter bands, which will close up the bracelet. So I'm going to go inside this middle row and grab the right band, which is on top, and loop that over. I'm going to go back in the middle and I'm going to grab this band and I'm going to go over to the left. Now I'm going to go all the way down into this peg, grab that bottom band, and this is what's going to hold everything together. So when you are looming, or when you're pulling your bands for this last one, you're going to go in, push back the band that's on top, which is the bling band, grab the bottom band, and bring that one back to itself. That's a big deal because if you don't do that, it's not going to catch your bling band and then it will fall apart when it is time to take it off of the loom. This actually turned out to be such a beautiful bracelet. I was very surprised because I really love bling, obviously. I like the rhinestones. And, you know, I thought, well, pearls. Pearls would be a nice touch. So now we're going to go over to this last, to the right side. Go all the way down and grab that bottom one. I don't know if I did. Let me do that one more time. If you ever do something like that, all you have to do is circle around your peg and it'll drop it back down to where it needs to be. So let me make sure. Okay, now I'm pushing that bead band back, making sure I have the bottom. So Jay on Instagram, he had done the corset bracelet, which is fabulous, okay? But the awesome thing about his tutorial is that he really teaches you how to loom correctly. As you can see, I'm zipping through this for the tutorial so you guys can understand, you know, the looping process and laying the bands. But he really shows he really taught me what makes a bracelet look clean. I was amazed on what I didn't know from watching any other tutorial or anything of that such. I was amazed you just have to go check out his tutorial. It's YouTube the corset bracelet and check him out. And I Love Hugh's shop is with him on that as well. Check them out together. So I'm taking those two bands into the middle here, so that way I know of anything. The bracelet ends right here. So I'm going to take a band and put my hook down in there and grab that band, bring it on up through the center, grab all of those bands in there, and that way we can just pull it off of the loom. I'm not worried. I know every time I always pull it off peg by peg, but these are awesome bands. They're really flexible and I love them a lot. And trust me, I would not be doing this if I knew I was going to break a band. So I'm just going to go ahead and we can pull it off. And it's not tightly woven, so you're really not pulling too much on it. Yeah, this is so abnormal of me. No, I don't do this. It's such a simple bracelet, but it's so pretty. You know, there are some bracelet designs that take hours and they are gorgeous, and then I feel bad because this one is so fast, but it's so pretty. So there we go. We have our bracelet completed. As you can see, they're a little bit scrunched, okay? But that's pretty normal because we put so many on. But once you put it on your wrist, just make sure that it is laying on your wrist exactly the way it's supposed to, just like that, standing next to each other. And that way you'll have everything staying in place. So you may be saying, and the reason that it's scrunching is because I did put this back here. But this actually, it can give you also an alternate look. It hides the middle space, and it puts, you know, if you want to have it on this way, you can as well. But to me, I just like to have it back there. But we have this double-sided, which holds these in place very, very well. So there are two ways that you can close this up. The way that I had done was I put 2 single chains all the way. So the two single chains keeps the shape of it, and it's going long ways on both sides. But the other alternative is just to take your center cap band and this right here, and you can add one extension and it will give you the same look. It's not going to give you a, you know, it's not going to be so far off, but that was just what I decided to do with mine. So I'm just going to put that S-clip on there right now, or just for now, and I wanted to lay it on here just to show you. So it's got, like I said, it's a little bit scrunched right now because I don't have my extension on it, which will give it a little bit of a pull when it goes around your wrist. But it is beautiful. I'm very, very happy with it. It really looks, I think, a lot better with these spacer beads with the rhinestones on them. They really sparkle and they're gorgeous. So that's my tutorial for the 3-row bling ladder. Thanks for watching, and if I did inspire you, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel because I have a ton more that is coming up. And please follow on Instagram if you would like to see any upcoming tutorials. I post all of my designs on there. And one last thing would be to, I'd like to request, if you do make this bracelet, to go on to Instagram and hashtag Chidero_T so I can see your awesomeness designs. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, let's bling it.